Hello and welcome back to the TVBinges.com Pilot Roundtable, a Southgate Media Group podcast. I'm Kyle Tremblay, the editor of TVBinges.com, and I am joined as always by a fellow TV Binges writer. No matter how hard she guards the TV, it always seems to get stolen. It's Olivia Richards, hello!
Those darn kids.
They're always taking the TVs.
I know, it's the first thing they go for.
Yes. Well, a Happy New Year to all of our listeners, and a Happy New Year to you, Olivia. It's our first podcast.
Happy New Year to you, too. Again, two holidays have passed since we last talked.
I know, it's been quite a while. Networks tend not to premiere shows over the holiday season, but now that we have turned the calendar page into a new year, they are bombarding us immediately, and Fox is our first network to fire the first salvo. We are talking in this podcast about the first of two Fox premieres from last Sunday. It is our first premiere of 2016, Cooper Barrett's Guide to Surviving Life. Olivia, what did you think of this pilot?
I needed a guide to survive the pilot. Let's just put it that way.
I needed a guide to survive saying the name of the pilot.
Oh, God. Everything about it from start to finish was... It happened. It occurred.
Did it?
It's how we kick off our 2016.
Oh, yeah, I mean, the fact that this pilot happened is more than I can... I mean, because this pilot is so anonymous, I'd say. Like, this is real. There's not a lot going on here, right?
Not particularly, no. I think that's the best thing we can say.
So this pilot's, its ostensible reason for existence is that it's a show about a dude who graduated college and his dude friends and his brother, and they are all kind of slackers, but not like they aren't threatening in any way. They're just sort of like lazy slackers, but they aren't all. It's not like any kind of movie that you might be thinking of, like a Seth Rogen movie or something, where they're actually like entertaining like potheads or something. No, they're just sort of generic post-college slackers. And then he talks directly to the audience and gives tips about surviving life. That's about all we got to go on here, based on this pilot. I think that's all that this is going for. And look, I'm not, like, I think most people agree, like, you don't need a gimmick. You know, pilots don't need a gimmick. You know, the premise for especially like a sitcom pilot doesn't have to be the most complicated thing in the world. As the case is often made, all the best sitcoms have a very simple premise, and it's usually just friends hanging out. This pilot manages to both get that wrong and do that in a boring way, and then also, on top of it, add in a gimmick of him talking to the camera, which is utterly pointless and provides absolutely nothing. So it really hits the worst of both worlds.
I'm kind of getting this idea that, like, television writers don't seem to understand how 20-somethings actually work.
Yes.
Like, and I get increasingly worried when I hear things that are like, this is the blah, blah, blah story of this 20-something group of friends. And I'm like, off the bat, I'm like, crap, this is going to suck so bad. Because it's like, not only is it like 20-somethings, it's like, they're like, oh, they're trying to understand life, but they're not doing anything. You know, like, this was like them just going to parties, and it really had more of a high school vibe than it ever did a post-grad, because I'm like, I literally just graduated, so like, this is the demographic that I'm, I guess, supposed to be the one they're catering it to.
Yeah.
I don't relate to any of these people. That was never my experience. Like, I mean, obviously, I don't know, maybe I don't fit the type that they're going for, but like, I'm watching this, and I'm like, is this how they think that people function? Like,
yeah, you're hitting on the right.
This is supposed to be like something that's supposed to be entertaining. I don't understand.
No, I think you're hitting on the key failing here, and there are many. But the most obvious failing is that this is a show about 20-somethings that doesn't appear to have any understanding of 20-somethings. And as a recent 30-something, I feel like I still am sort of like in touch with that world, and yeah, there's nothing about these characters that has appeal to me. Now, the idea of sort of finding yourself after college is certainly a near universal sense that a lot of people have. The idea that, oh, I'm suddenly no longer in school and I don't really know what I'm going to do with my life. That aspect of it makes sense. But this pilot really doesn't focus on that so much as the sort of hijinks aspect of it that I just never had any experience with, and I guess some people did. But this to me plays like a PG version of like a National Lampoon movie. Like this is like a kind of Revenge of the Nerds style movie, except without any kind of lovable characters and without any of the raunch or the sort of boundary pushing of that, or honestly like the sense of fun or adventure or entertainment or like us versus them. Like you're not rooting for anyone in this show, obviously, and so it's just sort of like a very like flat take on what could be a universal phenomenon, but really like the way the show portrays it. I agree with you. I didn't relate to any of this at all, and it really just felt like a very toothless version of whatever it was trying to be.
I honestly felt in a way that it was trying to go for like a Ferris Bueller's Day Off, except it was more like Ferris Bueller's Life Off. The Ferris Bueller was in high school. Like, it kind of stops being cute after a while when you're talking about that, like, going into your adult life. Like you had said before, like when you're talking about like, you know, universal themes of like, oh my God, I'm making a transition. What do I do now? Like, how do I become what I'm supposed to become in that next step? That's great, but I feel like so many shows, and especially this one, fail to do that because they don't touch on that at all. They just go straight to, okay, let's just show a group of, like, you know, 20-somethings partying and not doing anything, and then sitting around and complaining, and then worse, trying to give people life advice without actually having any kind of life experience or even trying.
Yes, that was my very first note, and I made it about 30 seconds into this pilot as the eponymous character, Cooper Barrett, was talking to me and telling me how to live my life. My very first note was, why is this guy telling me how to live my life? Like, there's no sense at all that this guy should be giving advice, and that narration that he does, like, let me tell you how to get out of this situation, is so at odds with the rest of the show because he is not portrayed as a particularly clever or, like, worth noting character. He's just sort of there, and I for the life of me can't understand what they're going for with that central character. He's played by Jacques Cutmore-Scott, who, as far as I can tell, is like a newcomer. And I don't think the performance is bad, but the character is not anything. Like, in this pilot, he is not defined in any way. And just the biggest mystery of this whole thing was why he would be giving anyone advice and what his perspective is supposed to be.
It's so accurate. And I'm like, I don't know if if there was a way they could have played that up, but like, there was no reason. And like, you know, the thing I got from it is just he's this smarmy guy, which I don't know why that seems to be kind of lead that many networks try to go for, is like you put this kind of cocky, smarmy, like overall obnoxious character, and it's like that's the central lead. And I was like, I'm annoyed. Like, I don't want to hear anything that they have to say. And like, again, it's not like it's like funny smarmy where it's sort of like I don't know, like a Dwight from The Office or something like that, where you're like, okay, like frequently I would want to punch you in the face, but like you do enough stuff that's like really, really funny that I can like, it's like you're lovable in that way. But like none of these characters have that lovability or that relatability or anything that really makes them like seem like a three-dimensional character to kind of balance it out.
Yes, I mean Dwight is a perfect example of a sort of comic book character, but he's treated as a real person, and over time they sketched out that character to have real traits. Now, of course, we're just judging this based on one episode, but I think it's fairly safe to conclude that the guy's nerdy friend who is terrified of marrying a woman with a mustache or something, and his black friend who was this episode was titled something about how to deal with a lovable jackass or something, how to survive. Yeah, and he I guess is that guy, although he just seemed like sort of a wacky friend. Like I don't know what about surviving him this was involved. It was all all the characters are so muddy in this. Like they're just so like they're all varying levels of the kind of guy you're describing, which is just this like smarmy, obnoxious dude, and that like I would never want to spend 1 second with. So I don't know why I would want to watch them on my TV. And this pilot also you were getting at does the thing that we have pointed out about a dozen times in the last year, and apparently has joined us for 2016, which is treats its characters like horrible garbage people for 16 minutes, and then the last 5 or 6 tries to redeem them with a series of like sincere scenes, which is just the dumbest, like most pandering, condescending sitcom move, and is a sure sign that a show just has no ideas of how to actually make its characters relatable or likable, and so it sticks all that material at the end. So yeah, I mean, this is really just a bad television show.
Yep. If you wanted to just boil it down to its most basic, yeah.
Were there any bright spots for you?
Not particularly. Like, I wanted to like it, because again, it was supposed to be like hip and like catering to like, you know, I guess where I am in life, and there was just nothing, and I think that even made it worse in a way. We're sitting there like, I just came home working full time and I'm watching this.
Right.
This sucks.
Yes. Yeah, it's almost a discouraging show. It's a discouraging look at the middle of your 20s, even though it's a show that's supposed to give you advice about surviving the middle of your 20s. I don't think this show has even a tenuous grasp on its own premise. Like, I feel like...
Not even close.
I feel like they came up with the name, they came up with the bit about him talking to the camera, and then they went, oh crap, we don't have a show. And so they built a show, and it really didn't have anything to do with the name or the bit, but they've sort of like mismatched it together. I do want to shout out Megan Rath, who plays the love interest. I didn't catch her name, but I think she's the best actor on the show. She has a really like sharp delivery that is desperately needed in this like lazy show. Like she's actually like saying her lines like with some fervor, and she has good comedic timing, and she just, I think, was the only character that I even remotely enjoyed. Although the show has not a great relationship with women overall, which might explain your troubles with relating with it, because the brother character, who's like the token like guy who has his life together but is secretly like trapped, he apparently thinks his wife is the devil the whole time. Like he's like avoiding her calls and like doing the thing where he's talking to her and doing like a cute like lovey voice, and then he like mutes the phone and talks about how terrible she is, and then he goes back to the lovey, unmutes it, and you know, like that old bit,
right?
But we see his wife for like 45 seconds, and she seems like a cool woman. Like she seems like
it, right?
She's like, I could not, again, for the life of me, figure out why he hated his wife. It's like he's starting a family. She seems like a put-together, like, normal woman who is concerned about her husband and calls after he's been out for hours when he said he was just going to be gone for like an hour, and is concerned when he spends the night without telling her. Like, these are all normal concerns to have in a marriage. I don't understand why she's this ball and chain on his life.
And it's like so frequently you see that happen in like the sitcom trope, where it's like it really is more like, you know, a child being nagged by his mother, except it's a marriage and it's weird. Like, and it's sad to see that that's played up for comedy so many times, because it's not funny and there's nothing new or original about it.
No, you know what would be really new and original for a show like this? To have a functional marriage. A guy who respects his wife and treats her well and actually cares about her, and go from there. Like, let's start with that, because that would be revolutionary for a show like this, and they just can't even think about that. You know, it's just not a thing.
No.
So predictably, this pilot did not do great in the ratings. It might have to do with the name. It might have to do with the well, probably the
everything.
Name. Yeah, the everything. The premiere did a 1.2 in the demo, which isn't like a dumpster fire, but it's really bad. And then, it did a paltry 2.63 million viewers overall, which is really bad. That's a disaster. So they got young people to tune in relative to the like zero like older people they got to tune in, but it was still very small numbers of both. So not a good start for this pilot. Olivia, do you think this one will be canceled quickly, make it through the season, or renewed for next season?
Canceled quickly.
Cancel quickly.
Let's start 2016 off, right?
Yep, with the guillotine.
Yeah.
So your final verdict, thumbs up or thumbs down on Cooper Barrett's guide to surviving his own pilot?
It's a big thumbs down. You don't need a guide.
Yeah.
Just give a thumbs down.
If the guide is like a couple loose leaf pages put together in like a cheap folder, and we need to throw it into the fire right now because the show should be canceled quickly. Thumbs down for me. So
Got in there.
I have to get it in for the record. You've been listening to the Pilot Roundtable at TVBinges.com and Southgate Media Group production. You can listen to all of our episodes on iTunes, where you can rate and review us. We'd appreciate that. Or find us at SouthgateMediaGroup.com. Follow Olivia on Twitter at RichardsOlivia and me on Twitter at KyleLovesTV. Until next time.